Hey guys, what's up? It's Alec Torelli, and welcome back to a special episode here. Historic announcement. For the first time in history, there is a currency that exists that's deflationary. Now, we're going to talk about why that's significant, what it is, potential upsides, a little bit about the history of money as well, to get us to the point where we are today. Let's start with a little bit of a history lesson. The currency system that we use in modern society is what is called fiat currency. That is currency that is not backed by anything. It's backed by government decree, and it has value because the government says it does. And so we have to use this currency in society to pay taxes and function, do other things. But the supply of that currency is not capped. It is unlimited. It can be manipulated at any time by central bankers. They can decide to print more of this currency, thereby devaluing the currency over time. And this is what's happening today. We have unprecedented money printing. The money supply is expanding worldwide in a way that it has never happened before. One of the greatest, arguably the greatest experiment in all of human history. Now, this is significant because we are all affected by this, because there is inflation. Inflation meaning the cost of things going up over time, or the value, the purchasing power your dollar has decreasing over time, otherwise known as prices increasing. So this is why when you were a kid, movie tickets were $5, I remember that. Now they're 10, 12, 15, whatever. Coffee was less, the housing was less, stocks were less, everything was less. And things go up over time. So this is called soft money or bad money because the supply can be manipulated and it loses value over time. In fact, fiat currency has an amazingly impressive track record in the wrong direction. In fact, there's been over 3,000, I believe, if my history is correct, fiat currencies. All of them have failed, in other words, gone to zero or devalued over time. In fact, the longest withstanding fiat currency, the British sterling pound, has devalued by 99% since inception 300-400 years ago. So it's an abysmal investment, and this is a example of a currency where the supply can increase by dramatic exponential amounts. Now, there's also good money or hard money, which is gold, and the supply of gold only increases typically 2% per year. And this is because even if the price of gold goes up and there are more miners, it takes a lot of effort and labor to mine gold. It's like super difficult, right? It's like go in the ground. I've actually invested in some startup mine projects that try and find gold, and it's a fun asymmetric investment because if they hit gold, it's worth a lot. But it's extremely hard to do because they're like literally drilling into the ground, hoping to find a rock that has gold. And so it doesn't matter how much money you have; it's like a very laborsome process. This is why the value of gold has maintained its value over time, because one of the properties of money is scarcity. There's 7 characteristics of money. One of them, arguably the most important, and the characteristic that distinguishes money from currency is money must be a store of value. To be a store of value, it must be scarce, whereas currency doesn't have to be a store of value. That's why the fiat currency, the US dollar, is not money. In fact, you should watch episode 4 of The Future of Money, the difference between money and currency, to understand this difference. But it's actually not money. The US dollar is not money, it's currency, because it's not a store of value. It's built by design to lose value over time due to inflation. Gold, on the other hand, is a store of value. It is good money. It, until a decade ago, was the best money ever discovered. And this is why society converged on gold as a store of value. So there's 2 important things to keep in mind here when we talk about this. And this will lead us into the revolution of money that's happening today, and also why this historic moment, why this video today is so significant, because there's a new money that could be the best ever discovered. Money tends to 1, which means that society converges on one medium as money. If you use aluminum, someone else uses rocks, and I use gold, I'm going to win because I have the best money. Episode number 2, a brief history of money. But one of them that's really fascinating to me, really, is in the 15th century, the Africans used beads, glass beads, as money, okay? And the Venetians were a more advanced society in Europe. They are on the gold standard. So they realized that the Africans were using glass beads as money, and they used their gold to buy glass at a cheaper cost because they had a harder money, and they made a bunch of glass. and they made these glass beads, the same ones that the Africans were using. They went over to Africa on their ships, and they bought up the entire African economy and all the people and all the supplies and all the goods and services. And this is why the beads, if you look them up, you can find this on Wikipedia, it's a true story. They're known as slave beads because all of Africa became enslaved to the Venetians, who were much more advanced, that had a harder money. The same thing happened to the Chinese against the South Americans, where they were on the silver standard, South Americans were on the gold standard. China got their wealth siphoned to the Latin Americans that were on a gold standard. So money is not a choice. This is something I'll be talking about more in the future of money on AlecTorelli.com. Money's not a choice, and money tends to win. Society converges. Game theory incentivizes everyone to choose the hardest, best store of value, most efficient money. That is the money that best satisfies all 7 characteristics. Don't have time to go into them in this video. There's more in the future of money if you want to learn about that. Portable, divisible, fungible, acceptable, store of value, etc. So the best money always wins, and it's the money that's the most efficient. And game theory incentivizes independent economic actors, me, you, your grandma, everyone else, to store their value in the best form of money. That's what society is doing, and that's something I learned from poker about the principles of game theory and how it applies to society at large. So that's where we're at, and society has chosen gold as money. It's not like anybody enforced people to store their value in gold. It's these independent actors all deciding that gold is the best place to store their value, and the people that are schmucks and don't store their value in gold, they watch their wealth getting siphoned off to the people that stored value in gold, so they switch. They eventually switch. They're forced to switch, otherwise they become slaves. So this is how gold, basically over the past 2,000, 3,000 years, became the universal store of value. That is the best form of money that's ever existed. This is up until a decade ago when a new form of money emerged with better monetary properties because there is a fixed supply. So for the first time in history, we didn't have an inflationary money like gold. It still has 2% inflation, so it technically gets devalued subtly over time, but we had a fixed supply of money with better characteristics. It was more divisible, more portable, more easily transferable, and it had, most importantly, it was a better store of value because there was a fixed supply. That money is called Bitcoin, and there's 21 million Bitcoin that are ever in the history, in the future of the world, that are ever going to be mined. There's only 21 million. No matter what happens, there's not going to be more than that. And that is built by design into the Bitcoin blockchain. And so that makes it a non-inflationary, non-deflationary. It makes it a fixed supply version of money. And this is largely what I've argued in the future of money, why Bitcoin will become the global reserve currency. It's going to become the future money. It's hard for people to see this. They think I'm crazy when I say things like this, but it's a once in 2,000 year event. This hasn't happened until gold emerged as the universal store of value. And so it's hard for people to see it because it's so profound. It's such a big event. What I'm saying is that we're disrupting money for the first time in human history, frankly. And that's happened in the past decade, and you're seeing value that's going from fiat and from gold and from all these other stores of value like real estate and stocks and all these other places over to Bitcoin at the expense of all these other things. That's why Bitcoin's the best performing asset of the past decade, because people are waking up to the consciousness of what Bitcoin is. They're understanding what money is. It's forcing them to learn about the history of money, the madness of central banking, our monetary system, which is a disaster, and Austrian economics, which is the study of sound money. So they're learning about these things, and as people learn more and their confidence and their awareness grows, they store their value in Bitcoin. Now, that's where we are today, or up to a few days ago, when, for the first time in history, we've discovered a money that is actually deflationary, which means that the supply of that money decreases over time the more that the money is used. So again, fiat exponentially growing, gold growing at 2% a year, Bitcoin stable. Now we have a new money that is deflationary. It's actually getting, the supply is contracting. We've never had this in human history. And this is Ethereum. You might have heard of Ethereum. You're probably wondering why now. I've heard of Ethereum before. It's the second largest cryptocurrency. But because there's a new update to Ethereum called EIP 1559, there's a great 79-page report by Squish Chaotic. I'll link in the description below. I've read it. It's an amazing report. I highly recommend it if you want to get into the weeds. Things we don't have time to talk about in this video. But there's two core things that are changing. One is they're migrating from a proof of work system, which is what Bitcoin does with those huge computers that have to mine the currency through solving complex algorithmic problems, mathematical equations, to a proof of stake model, where actors that own the currency have to stake that currency on the network to validate the transactions. Now, the important thing to keep in mind here is how the Ethereum blockchain operates. They use what's called gas, which is essentially like a little tax on every transaction. So Visa charges merchants 1% on every transaction. Ethereum charges $1, 50 cents, $2, $5, depending on, sometimes it could be $50 if the network's really clogged. But they charge a fixed amount of money depending on the usage of the network, and they charge that in fees to use and transact on the network. So if I want to buy an NFT from you, I have to send you Ethereum. Ethereum will charge a transaction fee for that purchase of the NFT. So that fee, that gas fee, now because of this new upgrade, EIP 1559, is going to be burned, which means ETH is going to be reducing its supply in proportion to the amount that the network is used. Now, my friends and I have done some back-of-the-napkin math, and we've concluded that basically 1% of the supply of Ethereum is decreasing every single year. So it's actually a deflationary currency where the supply is getting less. Now, why is this important? First of all, it's the first time in human history we've discovered a currency with these properties. So if Bitcoin is sound money, it's being said that Ethereum is ultrasound money. It's a money that reduces its supply over time. Now, why is this important? Because one of my hypotheses in the future of money, the accumulation of 500 hours of research I've done on cryptocurrency, finance, and the monetary system, is that the most efficient money wins. Right? So people converge on one medium as a store of value because it's the most efficient way to store money. Now, if there was a more efficient money than gold, I personally believe that society is going to converge on that to store its value. It's why I bet big on Bitcoin for a long time, because I believe it's the most efficient store of value that's ever existed. And so with Ethereum being deflationary, it brings that into a question. It could potentially disrupt Bitcoin because it is more efficient of a money as a store of value property. Remember, there's 7 characteristics of money, the most important being a store of value. And so it is decreasing its supply, and as the supply of something decreases, the price typically increases. What's happening with this update is it is the equivalent of 3 Bitcoin halvenings. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, a halvening is simply the issuance rate of Bitcoin to miners. It goes down by half once every 4 years. That typically, it creates a demand shock because the supply is decreasing so much of the miners, who are typically the people that are selling their Bitcoin on the open market. They are reducing their supply that they're getting because the issuance rate goes down by half, so they're earning half the amount of Bitcoin to keep the network alive, and that creates a price shock, which is why every 4 years you have these exponential growths of Bitcoin called cycles. These are based on the halvenings. Now, what's happening with Ethereum is this is the equivalent of 3 Bitcoin halvenings happening all at once. We've never seen this before with any monetary medium in human history, certainly not with a crypto, and it is really fascinating. We don't know what's going to happen. Now, I personally believe that this is not priced in. I don't believe in the efficient market hypothesis. I don't think that the market understands the depth that is required to understand all these things that are happening in crypto. Certainly the layman investor doesn't understand this. And so therefore, I don't believe that the halvening is priced in. I don't believe that the market understands the effects of EIP 1559, the upgrades to Ethereum, the triple halvening as it's called, and the move from sound money to ultrasound money. So this is a once in potentially history phenomenon. I don't think we're going to see this very often, where a major crypto is moving to a deflationary monetary policy. And I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's smart, this is not financial advice, just my personal opinion, to bet on both. Because before, I was more of the line that I don't want to use labels because they're so, they put you in a box, but more of a Bitcoin maxi. And that the idea is that there's one money, that money is Bitcoin, store all your value there, everything else is a speculation, Bitcoin's a sure bet. But now with ETH being deflationary and potentially being ultrasound money in respect to sound money of Bitcoin, I wonder if that is going to make ETH a better store of value long term. I wonder if ETH is going to win the store of value war and overtake Bitcoin as the dominant cryptocurrency because there's utility on ETH. People are actually using the network to transact, buy things, NFTs, digital art. They're using the network, which Bitcoin is predominantly used as a store of value. So the network is used less frequently for transactions, but also because the value of holding ETH is going to be potentially superior because it is deflationary as opposed to Bitcoin with a fixed supply. So this is an open question. I haven't formed extremely solid opinions about it yet. It's definitely been enough for me to bet on ETH, which I've been doing for a number of years, but also knowing this update was coming has been something that I've been very bullish on. And I don't think it's priced in. This update just happened a few days ago, and we will continue to monitor closely, and I'll keep you updated. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me your thoughts in a comment below. Let me know what you think. Is ETH going to overtake Bitcoin as the global store of value? I would love to know your thoughts in a comment below. Subscribe to this channel for more awesome content on crypto, as well as lessons I learned from poker that apply to life and business. And you guys are awesome. Thanks for your attention. I love producing these videos, growing this channel. Check out The Future of Money for more on the subject, my ideas about money, all in one concise video series. I'm Alec Torelli. I'll see you in the next one.